which is scheduled for later today.
Well, also on World DNA, we're tracking all the developments coming in from West Asia, Iran and Israel. These tensions have flared up again. Iran's military has threatened to respond to Israel after strikes in southern Lebanon, which killed 4 people. This even as Iran and the US are all set to launch talks on a final settlement on Friday in Switzerland, immediately after a signing ceremony. There's lots to track. Let's start with the headlines first. This is World DNA.
Prime Minister Modi, speaking at the G7 alongside Trump, raises concerns over deaths of Indian seafarers in US strike, calls for secure maritime trade routes, especially through Strait of Hormuz, highlighting human and economic costs of the conflict.
Officials say US-India trade agreement is in its final stage, with negotiations likely to be completed within the next few weeks, ahead of a key meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump on the sidelines of the G7 summit scheduled today.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says India's participation in G7 summit reflects a changing global order, emphasizes that G7 can no longer address global issues on its own, highlights need for broader cooperation to address global challenges.
US and Iran to begin talks in Switzerland on Friday to reach the final settlement following signing ceremony marking a 60-day negotiation window. Discussions to focus on Iran's nuclear program and lifting international sanctions on Iran.
Iran's military warns it would respond to Israel after strikes in southern Lebanon killed 4 people, despite a ceasefire agreement between Iran and the US ending the West Asia war. Iran accuses Israel of repeatedly violating the truce.
Russia says its warship fired warning shots near a yacht in the English Channel, claiming that it approached dangerously. UK says that the shots were not aimed at the vessel. The incident comes amid rising UK-Russia maritime tensions.
Shiv Sena UBT MPs are reportedly likely to reach Delhi and meet Lok Sabha Speaker to discuss joining Shinde-led faction amid speculation of split and merger move. Party MP Arvind Sawant urges Speaker not to accept any unauthorized claims.
Japan's exports jumped 17% in May, the fastest pace since 2022, boosted by strong demand for cars and semiconductors. Exports to China and the US surged, highlighting resilient global demand despite regional trade headwinds.
Erling Haaland scores a brace on his World Cup debut as Norway defeat Iraq 4-1 in their Group 1 match to make a winning return to the tournament 28 years after their last appearance. And we begin this edition first up with the latest on the G7 summit, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump having met at the G7 summit, which marked the first in-person interaction between the two leaders in over a year.
And it was highly anticipated. It all began when world leaders took to the stage. This is for a G7 family photo. Prime Minister Modi and US President Donald Trump were seen interacting and they were interacting with other world leaders as they walked onto the stage. While there was no interaction between the two leaders, they stood close to each other, with French President Emmanuel Macron standing between them.
have photographs there and upstairs.
And just here, please, down there, please. Ladies and gentlemen.
First downstairs.
As a group photo session came to an end, President Trump walked off the stage with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi and Italy's Giorgia Meloni. Prime Minister Modi was also seen huddled in a conversation with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and others.
Now, the ice-breaking moment came when world leaders gathered for the G7 roundtable session. Prime Minister Modi entered the venue. He had a brief chat with EU Council President Antonio Costa, while President Trump was seen interacting with the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. As PM Modi went towards his seat, Trump shook hands with the Prime Minister, exchanged smiles, and the two leaders had a brief chat. It was their first face-to-face meeting in the last 16 months.
Well, then sitting beside President Donald Trump, Prime Minister Narendra Modi raised concerns over the safety of seafarers in the Strait of Hormuz. In his statement, Prime Minister Modi said that those working at sea must be able to perform their duties without fear or threat to their lives.
Now, with Trump looking, Prime Minister Modi also quoted Ronald Reagan's famous maxim, trust but verify, saying that world suffers from shortage of trust.
Later, as the world leaders gathered for an evening reception, Prime Minister Modi was seen lending a helping hand to President Trump as he made his way to the stage. Trump was also seen holding Prime Minister Modi's hand as the two interacted with other world leaders. The warmth between the two leaders could mark an inflection point in the strained bilateral ties. All eyes would now be on the much anticipated bilateral meet between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, which is scheduled for later today.
All right, to discuss what's next in the G7, we're now being joined live by Dr. Aza Radwan Sedki, joining us from Vancouver. She's a political analyst and author. Aza, thanks so much for making time for us and joining us here on World DNA. When you look at the G7, ma'am, France, Japan, Italy, Canada, UK, they've all faced very pinpointed and sharp remarks from the US president. And you've seen how that group photo looked as well. What's the future of this G7 grouping in your understanding?
The G7 itself?
Yes.
Oh, it will continue every year. This is the 52nd time it is held, and France is holding the rotating presidency, and the G7 will continue to hopefully convince the US to work with them and to join hands and do the things expected of them. This meeting was covering basically three things. The crisis in the Middle East, the tariff wars, and of course Ukraine. Ukraine originally wasn't supposed to be as highlighted, but they did manage to get President Trump to attend the session and to meet one-on-one with President Zelensky. And at the very end say that, in fact, Ukraine is doing better and chances of it winning the war is there, and that they would have to help Ukraine by adding more sanctions on Russia. So this was a good thing. This was a good plus for the meeting.
I hear you.
Dr. Aza, in continuation with the point you made regarding the Ukraine war, we have a statement coming in from President Trump who says that the Ukraine war has no direct impact on the US. Do you sense the division among the G7 allies already?
No, they are all for Ukraine. The only issue is the US, but the rest of Europe and Japan are all for it, of course.
Dr. Sedki, when you look at what's happened in the last 3 months and how all these nations, when you talk about France, you talk about Italy, they largely asked US, don't use our airspace. The Japanese Prime Minister sitting in the Oval Office was embarrassed by the US President reminding her about Pearl Harbor. And then you also have the hellhole reference for India. And then you also have other references for Canada, where you're joining us from, repeatedly asking Canada to be the 51st state of the US. So each country would be antagonized to a certain degree with these kind of remarks. And when you see those handshakes taking place or that group photograph, what sense do you get, or what conclusion do you feel this meeting will be able to draw, or this summit of the G7 taking place in 2026?
Diplomacy has to rule. Despite some saying otherwise, diplomacy has to rule. Today, Mark Carney was speaking to President Trump, and he was explaining the fact that Canada has opened to get e-vehicles from China. And in a sense, he managed to, I think, convince him, because at the end of the conversation, he said, yes, that's a good thing. So diplomacy works. It doesn't really matter if sometimes things go haywire, but at the end, you have to be diplomatic. We can't do anything else but that. That's the most important thing.
Understood.
Yes. Dr. Azhar, talking about the Strait of Hormuz, despite a deal in place and Trump making it clear that it will be operational in days from now, talk to us that how can the G7 leaders really work towards bridging that trust deficit when it comes to the passage of commercial ships? Why the Strait of Hormuz? Because there is definitely security concerns regarding the passage of those vessels through the Hormuz Strait in days to come.
Yes, and there are mines that are supposed to be removed.
Right.
And today, Mark Carney said that that Canada would help. Maybe it doesn't have the facilities, but it has the financial maybe means. It has support from others in the region. But Canada will help to open and overcome the mining issue. And hopefully Iran itself may be able to help in that situation.
Dr. Azhar, thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Pleasure speaking with you.
Very welcome.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, shifting focus then, in fact, news that is related to Iran with the military now having threatened to respond to Israel after strikes in southern Lebanon killed 4 people.
And this is despite a deal between Tehran and Washington ending the war in West Asia, and that includes Lebanon, at least as far as Iran is concerned. Now, in a statement, Iranian military's Central Command, Khatab al-Anbiya, they warned of a harsh response to Israel's acts of aggression in South Lebanon.
Lebanon's state news agency said that Israel targeted 2 vehicles in the town of Mefedown and another in nearby Shukin region, near the town of Nabateh in southern Lebanon, that killed 4. The Israeli military even said that it conducted a strike after it identified a suspicious vehicle near its soldiers where they were operating, and that its forces intercepted several rockets and carried out an airstrike against a launcher.
Now, the developments come as Iran and US are all set to launch talks on a final settlement on Friday in Switzerland, immediately after a signing ceremony. According to a senior US official speaking on conditions of anonymity, the framework agreement has already been signed electronically, with only a formal ceremony scheduled for Friday.
Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf will attend the signing from the Iranian side, and the US will be represented by Vice President J.D. Vance, who said that Trump might also attend the signing of the deal.
Now, the interim deal would extend the fragile ceasefire announced in April by another 60 days and then reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran has effectively blocked since the United States and Israel launched strikes on Iran in February. US insists, that is largely Donald Trump insists, that the Strait of Hormuz will be opened as soon as the signing takes place. There will be no toll. Iran says there will be no toll, but they will impose a fee. Now, under this agreement, the US naval blockade imposed in retaliation would also be lifted.
Trump said that the text of the deal states clearly that Tehran will not have a nuclear weapon and that the full agreement would be made public in a formal setting in a few days' time.
Much interest in the text of the document. Why not release the topic?
Oh, I will.
Why not release it
Well,
before
because
Friday?
I'd like to get a formal setting first before we do that. But I have no problem with that. It's a good document. Here's what it says. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. That's what it says. It won't have one to buy, to develop. They will not have a nuclear weapon. And I would say that's about 99.9% of what I wanted.
The European Union has set the ball rolling on Ukraine's accession to the bloc.
Well, the foreign ministers from the 27-nation bloc formally kicked off accession negotiations with Ukraine and neighboring Moldova. The lengthy process will require Ukraine to comply with 6 thematic clusters of reforms.
Now, these include all the necessary prerequisites for joining the European Union. Throughout the negotiation process, the EU will conduct regular assessments of Ukraine's progress. It will evaluate Ukraine's implementation of relevant European standards and regulations.
For us, this is a really a Rubicon, a milestone, a really moment when accession negotiations are moving to their closure and successful closure, closing the chapters.
Well, the path to Ukraine's EU membership was cleared after Viktor Orban lost the election in Hungary. He had been the biggest obstacle to Kiev's bid to join the EU.
Viktor Orban was succeeded by Peter Magyar, who supports Ukraine's EU membership but opposes fast-tracking this process, that is. Magyar says the entire accession process could take between 10 and 15 years.
Negotiators will work through 35 chapters that will cover everything from the environment and agriculture to justice and security. While Kiev undergoes a lengthy process of securing full EU membership, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has proposed granting Ukraine associate membership of the EU without voting rights. However, Ukrainian President Zelensky fears that such an interim arrangement could further delay Ukraine's path to full membership. United States is taking a major step to strengthen its military footprint in the Indo-Pacific.
And this is with plans to establish a permanent, war-ready Marine Corps weapons stockpile on Australia's southeast coast. According to newly revealed documents, the facility will be built in Victoria State and this is well beyond the range of most Chinese missiles and is expected to become fully operational by 2028.
Well, the project marks the first US Marine Corps land-based weapons stockpile in Australia and also comes as Washington moves to expand its military readiness across the Indo-Pacific, which is in response to China's growing military capabilities.
Now, the stockpile will house critical equipment, supplies and crew-served weapons, enabling faster deployment and greater operational flexibility during exercises or potential conflicts. While Australia does not permit foreign military bases on its soil, the country has increasingly hosted rotating US forces as defense cooperation between the two allies continues to deepen.
Security experts say that the location choice reflects growing concerns over China's ability to target northern Australia with long-range missiles, thereby making the southern region a more secure hub for a strategic military asset.
Now, the development underscores a broader US effort to boost deterrence, improve logistics and even strengthen its strategic position in a region where great power competition is reaching new heights.
Have control, you don't feel comfortable.
And a glowing object appears in the skies above one of America's most sensitive military zones.
Well, witnesses describe a giant mother ORB that is releasing smaller objects into the night. The shocking revelations has reignited the global UFO mystery, thereby forcing the government to address what is breaching their airspace.
For decades, strange lights have appeared in the skies across America, Some disappear without explanation. Others become part of classified investigations. But one sighting has now drawn fresh attention because of where it happened. Near Colorado's Cheyenne Mountain, one of America's most secure military locations, witnesses reported seeing an unusual glowing object in the sky. The object was described as a large mother orb, as seen in this image released by the US Department of War. According to the reports, it appeared to release smaller glowing orbs that moved around it. The sighting has become part of a new wave of government-released UFO files covering unexplained aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs. The documents reveal strange encounters. They describe unusual lights, objects, and movements that witnesses could not explain. The US government has taken no position on whether these incidents have an extraterrestrial origin. Officials have not confirmed aliens, spacecraft, or technology from outside Earth. Instead, the reports focus on collecting data and examining events that remain unexplained. The Cheyenne Mountain location has added to public interest. The underground complex in Colorado is linked to America's military command and early warning systems, making any unusual activity in the area a subject of intense attention. For now, the mystery remains. The files reveal what people saw. They reveal what investigators studied, but they do not reveal what these objects truly are. The skies remain unexplained, and the search for answers continues.
Well, what if we told you that there is a place where a person earning nearly $210,000 a year is considered middle class?
Well, $210,000, let me just add to that, and it is considered middle class. Well, a place where millionaires are so common that 1 in every 8 residents is one. Welcome to Zug. This is Switzerland's tiny canton that has become a magnet for the world's ultra-rich. Spread across just 240 square kilometers, this region, it looks like a postcard. Sparkling lakes, green meadows and quiet streets. But behind this peaceful setting lies one of the world's most powerful wealth hubs with a population of only 130,000 people.
Well, Zug generates a GDP of nearly $24 billion, on par with countries such as Armenia or even Namibia, and hosts more than 40,000 companies as well. Commodity giants and cryptocurrency firms have reportedly turned the region into Europe's famous crypto valley. Now, a new wave of billionaires are already arriving, with wealthy families from West Asia and even Europe that are increasingly choosing Zug. And this while they are seeking security, stability and predictability amid rising geopolitical tensions. The price of entry, however, is enormous.
Now, the tiny 26 square meter studio apartment here, it rents for around $3,650 a month, while a modest hillside villa, it sells for nearly $5.5 million. Zug's biggest attraction, it remains Switzerland's lump sum tax regime. In many Swiss subdivisions, wealthy foreigners can pay taxes based on their living expenses rather than their total income, and thereby significantly lowering their tax burden. And that advantage has put Zug in the same league as one of the world's most sought-after destinations for the wealthy. All right, next up, let's take a quick look at images drawing attention around the world. These are some freeze frames. Take a look.
Well, time to head into a very short break. But before we go, just a reminder to our viewers in India that you can watch all 2026 FIFA World Cup matches on Z5, tune in and catch all the action live.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. Around 169 buildings have been totally reduced to rubble. Every time there's a warning, they just come to this public area where there are around 200 tents and they reside for a while and then they go back to their home. Some of the Lebanese people enjoying their time, celebrating, singing, dancing, and some others forcibly displaced. From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION The World is One.
You can have 1,000 problems in life until you have a health problem. And then you have only one. Health is wealth, a timeless proverb that has resonated through generations. It reminds us that physical and mental well-being are life's most valuable assets. At the WION Health Pulse 2026, we tap into the health concerns that matter to you the most and explore actionable strategies to safeguard the ultimate wealth, your health. 4 pulsating themes, 100+ thought leaders, 1 dynamic platform. WION Health Pulse, because your health matters. Iran and Ukraine loom over G7, as France looks to rekindle the original spirit of G7. Future looks increasingly uncertain for the international order. International economy becoming a space for confrontation. Can the summit bridge the divide between the allies and Trump? Will this G7 be a defining moment for the middle powers? Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
breaking news.
And raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one. In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is One.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Samiksha. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss on this side of the show. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's start with the headlines.
US military strike on suspected drug trafficking boat in Eastern Pacific kills 1 person. 2 others survive and search and rescue efforts are underway. More than 200 reported killed in ongoing campaign since September last year.
PM Modi, US President Donald Trump are expected to discuss the West Asia crisis, security of the Strait of Hormuz and India-US trade deal during their G7 sideline meeting today. Talks will focus on boosting energy ties amid maritime trade concerns.
Prime Minister Modi, speaking at the G7 alongside Trump, raises concerns over deaths of Indian seafarers in US strike, calls for secured maritime trade routes, especially through Strait of Hormuz, highlights human and economic costs of the conflict.
US and Iran to begin talks in Switzerland on Friday to reach the final settlement following signing ceremony, marking a 60-day negotiation window. Discussions to focus on Iran's nuclear program and lifting international sanctions.
Russia says its warship fired warning shots near a yacht in English Channel, claiming it approached dangerously. UK says that the shots were not aimed at the vessel and that the incident comes amid rising UK-Russia maritime tensions.
Six Shiv Sena UBT MPs reportedly likely to reach Delhi and meet Lok Sabha Speaker to discuss joining the Shinde-led faction amid speculation of the split and merger move. Party MP Arvind Sawant urges the Speaker not to accept any unauthorized claims.
New Fed chair is looking to shrink Federal Reserve's $6.7 trillion balance sheet and reduce its role in financial markets. Analysts say any major change will take time as policymakers remain divided over the potential impact on market stability.
Kylian Mbappe scores twice as France overcame early wobbles to open their World Cup account with a 3-1 win against Senegal, taking his World Cup tally to 14 goals.
Well, beginning first up with the latest on the Russia-Ukraine war, strikes by the Russian forces on Ukraine have killed at least 8 people.
This is just as G7 leaders agreed to intensify pressure on Moscow over its 4-year-plus long offensive. And this comes as President Zelensky brandished photos of the Russian strikes at the summit, which killed at least 11 people and sparked a fire at a landmark Kiev cathedral.
Well, it was on Tuesday that a Russian drone strike on a car in the central Dnipropetrovsk region killed 3 people, which included a mother and a son. According to officials, Russian shelling of the Donetsk region city of Sloviansk killed 3 people, while drone strikes on the southern Kherson region killed 2 people and wounded 16 others.
Well, the attacks took place as President Zelensky met with US President Donald Trump on the sidelines of the G7 summit. Following the meeting, Zelensky said that he hoped Ukraine could secure US licenses to produce anti-ballistic air defense systems and missiles.
We spoke about this air defense with President Trump. Our teams will work, and God willing, this time, we will succeed in obtaining licenses for the production of the relevant anti-ballistic systems and missiles.
Zelensky also said that G7 countries supported efforts to strengthen Ukraine's air defenses and discussed both missile supplies as well as air defense systems. He added that the G7 leaders also agreed that the war must be brought to an end, while accusing Russian president of lacking any genuine desire to stop the conflict and saying Moscow must be pressured to do so.
Everyone believes that the war must be stopped in any case. This is logical. Everyone believes that they do not see any desire on Russia's part, that it is playing games, that it has this in mind. Above all, Putin does not want to end it, but he must be forced.
Earlier, the US president said that Russia should make a deal to end the fighting. He also indicated that Washington could reimpose waived sanctions on Russia. The Russia-Ukraine war received much focus at the G7 as the leaders agreed to intensify pressure on Russia.
Look, Russia should make a deal. Russia's lost tremendous amounts of people, and so has Ukraine. Last month, they lost 35,000 soldiers between the two of them. Think of it. This is on a monthly basis. They average 25,000 people, mostly soldiers, young, beautiful people.
Meanwhile, G7 leaders have issued a joint statement on Ukraine that pledged an unwavering support for Kiev in defending its freedom, sovereignty and territorial integrity. It showed consensus on increasing the delivery of air defense capabilities to Ukraine, as well as for the licensed production of interceptors, as well as additional systems. The G7 statement stressed on the need for energy resilience for the winters and pledged to put more pressure on Russian economy through sanctions on oil and gas.
The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that all the G7 powers were in the same place and there was a real sense of unity in the G7. In an interview, Starmer also said that Ukraine has shown that it's able not just to defend itself, but to take territory back from the Russians and inflict quite significant losses on Russia. He added that UK was imposing a raft of new sanctions against Russia in a bid to pressure Moscow into halting the war against Ukraine.
On Monday, Zelensky even offered to meet his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in US for peace talks. However, the Kremlin later said that it had not received any such proposal. Trump, in fact, had earlier said earlier this month that he saw no point in meeting Zelensky until a peace deal was in place.
China is strengthening its ties with Myanmar. Chinese President Xi Jinping hosted the Myanmar leader Min Aung Hlaing for talks in the Chinese capital.
Well, the discussion focused on deepening economic cooperation, enhancing security coordination, as well as advancing major infrastructure projects under China's Belt and Road Initiative.
Now, Xi Jinping described Myanmar as a priority in China's neighborhood diplomacy. He expressed support for Myanmar's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The Chinese president also reaffirmed China's long-standing policy of non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries.
China adheres to the principle of non-interference in other countries' internal affairs and pursues a friendly policy toward all the people of Myanmar.
At the heart of the discussions was a China-Myanmar economic corridor, a flagship Belt and Road project that links the two countries through infrastructure, trade and connectivity initiatives. She called the steady and secure advancement of key projects, saying they would help boost Myanmar's economy and improve livelihoods.
Now, for his part, Min Aung Hlaing thanked China for its support in development, stability and reconciliation efforts while reaffirming Myanmar's commitment to the One China principle. He said Myanmar hopes to expand trade, investment and infrastructure cooperation with China.
The talks concluded with the signing of multiple cooperation agreements. The two leaders later attended a ceremonial signing event that was followed by a state banquet hosted by President Xi at the Great Hall of the People. Well, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in France to participate in the G7 summit and hold several bilateral engagements on the sidelines.
And WION's Assistant Editor Foreign Affairs is reporting on ground. Siddhant Sibal is at the venue of the G7 summit in France, Israel-Lebanon. He spoke at length with the spokesperson for the French Foreign Ministry on India-France bilateral relations and how both sides are collaborating on the issue of global concerns. Listen into these excerpts.
This shows actually the very high level of quality of bilateral relations. You know that President Macron, Prime Minister Modi exchange very often. You have a strategic bilateral partnership which is extremely strong in different fields, tech, culture, but also military cooperation, as you know, and this shows how valuable it is for France, this partnership with India.
And in India's northern state of Punjab, the ruling Aam Aadmi Party is finding itself in the middle of a fresh controversy now.
Well, it's Akal Takht, which is the highest temporal seat of Sikhs, declared the state's chief minister Bhagwant Mann an anti-Guru, an anti-Khalsa Panth, which comes days after AAP's national convener had projected Bhagwant Mann as a party's chief ministerial candidate for next year's assembly elections.
Now, the pronouncement came months after Mann appeared before the Akal Takht Secretariat to explain his position regarding a controversial video that Sikh religious authorities believed had hurt Sikh sentiments. The chief minister denied the accusation and said that the video was AI generated. Mann in his video accused certain leaders of having political influence and even said that religion is being misused and misconstrued to defame him.
के फैसले उन्होंने बिल्कुल भी बर्दाश्त नहीं है ਉਹ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਦਨਾਮ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੱਥ ਖੰਡੇ ਬਣਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਧਰਮ ਨੂੰ ਇਸਤੇਮਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਤਖਤ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਸਰਵਉੱਚ ਮੰਨਦਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਿਰ ਝੁਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਮੈਂ ਨਤਮਸਤਕ ਹਾਂ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਤਖਤ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਾਲ ਮੱਥਾ ਲਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਤਾਂ ਦੂਰ ਹੈ ਜੀ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਕਈ ਪੀੜ੍ਹੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੋਚ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ ਮੈਂ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਤੋਂ ਕਦੇ ਮੁਨਕਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਤਖਤ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਸਰਵਉੱਚ ਮੰਨਦਾ ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਿਆਸੀ ਅਪਾਇੰਟਮੈਂਟਸ ਸਿਆਸੀ ਨਿਯੁਕਤੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸਿੱਖ ਸੰਗਤ ਭਲੀ ਭਾਂਤੀ ਜਾਣਦੀ ਹੈ
The Takht had questioned the AAP leader about a video in which a person resembling him was seen sprinkling alcohol on images of Sikh gurus. The Sikh religious body officials said that they questioned the chief minister regarding the video and he claimed it was AI generated. The Takht claims when asked to give proof, they did not receive any response from Mann in 6 months. Akal Takht Jatedar Kuldeep Singh Gargaj said that the video was then examined by 2 laboratories recognized by the Government of India, which revealed that the video was neither fake nor AI generated.
Now, the timing could hardly have been worse for the Aam Aadmi Party here in Punjab. By declaring Mann as the CM face well in advance, the Aam Aadmi Party is trying to energize its cadre. The party wants to frame the next elections around governance, welfare delivery and Mann's carefully cultivated public image.
Mamata Banerjee-led Trinamool Congress seems to be in a complete chaos and pushed deeper into crisis.
Well, the TMC chief reportedly filed an election petition before the Calcutta High Court, challenging the poll result in the Bhabanipur seat, which she lost to Chief Minister Suvendu Adhikari, TMC National General Secretary, and Mamata's nephew, Abhishek Banerjee, on Tuesday. They appeared before the CID in connection with an alleged signature forgery case.
Well, it was on Monday that Banerjee had the Enforcement Directorate question him in connection with the 2022 Bribe for Job case that involved the Education Department. He arrived at the Salt Lake CGO complex around 11 a.m. on Monday, and the questioning did not end until 9:30 p.m.
Meanwhile, rebel Trinamool Congress MP Kakoli Ghosh Dasdidar on Tuesday said that the Nationalist Citizens Party of India has agreed to accept the joining of all the dissident Lok Sabha members of her party, whose members are likely to go up to 22 from the present 20.
Earlier, at least 20 of TMC's Lok Sabha MPs informed Lok Sabha Speaker that they had merged with the Tripura-based Nationalist Citizens Party of India, or the NCPI, a move that could potentially alter the party's parliamentary strength and thereby bolster the ruling National Democratic Alliance.
Now, after meeting the speaker, rebel MP Kakoli Ghosh Dasdidar said that the lawmakers had decided to align with the NDA through the merger. Amid this, TMC MP Kalyan Banerjee hit out at Kakoli Ghosh and complained against him to Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and called it her personal bias.
It began with TMC MLA Rita Brata Banerjee staking claim to as the leader of opposition in the State Assembly with support of 58 lawmakers earlier this month. Then Kakoli Ghosh openly expressed the wish for splitting away, which has now happened.
plenty of ink has been spilt on why the European Central Bank is hiking rates and whether it's right or wrong.
But fewer are even asking if any of this even matters. Well, in this next report, we explore how the relationship between interest rates and the economy has changed over the years and not always as one would expect. Take a look.
Last week's ECB rate hike will take years to fully feed through to Europe's economy. Data shows that since 2021, average Eurozone mortgage rates for existing homeowners have risen by less than 1 percentage point despite 0.45% of rate hikes. And while rates have since been cut, that average mortgage rate keeps on rising. Admittedly, it depends on where you look. Dutch and French homeowners have been the most insulated from hikes, while Portuguese and Finns are the least. But the big picture is simple. Around half of Eurozone mortgages are fixed for more than 10 years. And that means the rate hikes from 4 years ago are still working their way through and will be for several years to come. And that's before we even think about last week's extra 0.25% hike. One interesting consequence is that rate hikes can initially boost household incomes. Savings rates adjust quickly, whereas mortgage payments largely don't. National accounts data show net interest income for households actually rose as a share of disposable income in both the Eurozone and UK after the last hiking cycle. The only exception is a sharp contrast to when rates rose ahead of the financial crisis. But none of this means rate hikes are in some way stimulative. Still, rate hikes can have unexpected consequences. Take house building. The textbook says higher rates cool activity. Yet that isn't what happened in the US after the aggressive rate hikes 4 years ago. Demand collapsed and has stayed that way, but so did supply. Homeowners with ultra-low fixed rates stopped moving. Tighter credit standards have an impact too. Rate hikes have made consumer credit much more expensive, as US delinquency data shows. Corporate borrowing tends to be more sensitive to floating rates, but 1 or 2 rate hikes here and there won't change much. And if rate hikes take years to bite, what's the point? So above all, it's about signaling. With all this fixed rate debt, what central banks say often matters more than what they do. This is Bureau Report. WION World is One.
From the world of tech then, the SoftBank Group, Japan's technology and investment conglomerate, has announced a new AI-powered cybersecurity service.
And it's designed to help protect critical infrastructure companies from growing cyber threats. SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son warned that Japan's exposure to cyber attacks has reached crisis levels. Son said that the nature of cyber attacks has changed dramatically as artificial intelligence makes attacks more powerful, complex and difficult to defend against. He compared the threat to facing machine gun fire rather than the rifle shots of the past. SoftBank's new service will target Japan's 3,000 most important companies, including operators of airports, power networks and transportation systems.
The service will begin by identifying weaknesses in a company's digital system that could be exploited by cyber criminals. It will then analyze what changes are needed and help organizations fix those very security gaps. SoftBank even described the approach as a patching service, which is aimed at strengthening defenses before attacks even occur.
I think that in a sense, this is our duty. Today, we are calling the plugging of these holes as patching. Through this patching as a service, it's not enough to just defend once. We have to defend over and over again.
Well, the announcement is the latest development in SoftBank's partnership with OpenAI. Last year, the two companies created a joint venture called SBOI Japan to develop and market AI services exclusively for the Japanese market. SoftBank said that the new cybersecurity offering uses OpenAI technology and forms a key part of that collaboration.
Cyber is a very interesting capability because we call it a dual-use capability, which means that even though the models can get better and better at finding vulnerabilities, we can use that for defense as well.
Companies around the world are increasingly turning to AI-based security tools as cyber attacks grow in scale and sophistication.
Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland, two of the most prolific scorers playing this year's Football World Cup, have begun their campaign in style.
And this with both scoring braces in their respective opening matches. Mbappe scored twice as France opened their World Cup account with a 3-1 win against Senegal that posed a serious challenge in the first half at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. But Kylian Mbappe scored the 13th and 14th World Cup goals of his career in the second period to put France ahead. Bradley Barcola also found the net as he skillfully dinged the ball over Senegal goalkeeper. With this, Senegal got a consolidation in added 5 with an Ibrahim Mbaye goal. Mbappe's 14 World Cup goals take him level with West Germany legend Gerd Müller as the third highest scorer in World Cup history.
And the 27-year-old is now within touching distance of beating German Miroslav Klose's all-time record of 16. Speaking of goal scorers, another potent scorer, Erling Haaland, marked his first World Cup finals appearance with 2 goals in a 4-1 victory against Iraq. The Manchester City striker pounced from close range on the 29 minutes in Foxborough, but Ayman Hussein's header brought Iraq level. Haaland then capitalised on an Iraqi defensive error to put Norway ahead again before half-time. Substitute Leo Østgaard headed in a third for Norway, their 4th goal in stoppage time through an own goal.
Off the field, Ghana midfielder Thomas Partey, who is facing trial on rape charges in Britain, won't be able to play their World Cup opener against Panama. Partey lost a court challenge on Tuesday that would have allowed him to enter Canada for the game in Toronto. Partey appealed after Ottawa denied the former Arsenal player a visa, but Canadian broadcasters said that a judge has dismissed that very challenge.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino has said that 1 million fans have so far attended matches at the World Cup in the United States, Canada and Mexico. Infantino wrote on Instagram, I quote here, "Wow, 1 million fans in stadiums." The expanded 48-team World Cup kicked off last Thursday and 16 of the scheduled 104 matches have been played.
And with this, just a reminder to our viewers in India that you can watch all 2026 FIFA World Cup matches on Z5, tune in and catch all the action live. Well, Madrid became the center of cinematic universe as Hollywood's most beloved power couple.
And that's Zendaya and Tom Holland, who officially kicked off the press tour for Spider-Man Brand New Day. This marks their first appearance together after their secret marriage. Now, actor Tom Holland has confirmed in a magazine interview that he is married to fellow Spider-Man co-star Zendaya. In an interview with Esquire, he said, I quote, "I found my person, she's my best friend, and I'm the happiest I ever have been when I'm with her." It seems Hollywood's favorite power couple, Zendaya and Tom Holland, are finally pulling back the curtain on the romance between Peter Parker and Michelle MJ Jones Watson. Their real-life couple moments reveal a love story that never entirely made it into the lives of Spider-Man and MJ.
On the work front, both the actors Tom Holland and Zendaya are no strangers to monumental box office success. Their previous ventures, such as Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man No Way Home, have both witnessed billion-dollar success. In fact, during the challenging theatrical landscape of 2021, their superhero sequel was the only billion-dollar hit from Hollywood, single-handedly revitalizing global cinemas. In fact, the powerhouse duo is now primed to dominate theaters all over again this year with 2 massive 2026 releases. They will first share the screen in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey in mid-July before swinging right back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe just weeks later for Spider-Man Brand New Day.
All right, viewers, that's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. Thanks so much for staying with us. Short break now. Stay with us.
elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
You can have 1,000 problems in life until you have a health problem. And then you have only one. Health is wealth, a timeless proverb that has resonated through generations. It reminds us that physical and mental well-being are life's most valuable assets. At the WION Health Pulse 2026, we tap into the health concerns that matter to you the most and explore actionable strategies to safeguard the ultimate wealth, your health. 4 pulsating themes, 100+ thought leaders, one dynamic platform. WION Health Pulse, because your health matters.
Modi and Trump face-to-face at G7. The famous personal chemistry on test. The red lines and trade reset will be under scrutiny. The high-stakes meet at G7. Watch the body language, the breakthroughs, as the world's 2 most powerful leaders meet. In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances. Power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. Around 169 buildings have been totally reduced to rubble. Every time there's a warning, they just come to this public area where there are around 200 tents, and they reside for a while, and then they go back to their home. Some of the Lebanese people enjoying their time, celebrating, singing, dancing, and some others forcibly displaced. From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION The World is One.
vielleicht nur